What's shaking, my friends? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Shay, and today we're going to talk about all of the romance books that I felt were disappointing worst books or that I DNF'd in the year of 2025. Now, I have already posted my sci-fi, fantasy, thriller, all of the other genres besides romance. I have posted this video, so go and check that one out. This is going to be specifically romance based. If you don't know about my year, about 6 months of my year I spent reading majority fantasy, and about 6 months of my year I spent reading majority of romance and kind of getting into the romance genre. While I did read romance before I sprinkled it in, I went heavy on the romance in the last 6 months of the year of 2025. With that being said, I read 214 books in 2025, which is the most books that I have ever read, and I think largely that is in part to the romance that I read. We're gonna go ahead and get started talking about these books. A Not So Meet Cute by Megan Quinn. So this book I actually read in my fantasy, when I was reading fantasy and just sprinkling a little romance in. I remember just not liking this book. This is a TikTok darling, which I didn't know at the time. Like, I'm interested. I've read a lot of Megan Quinn books and enjoyed them. She's a rom-com author. I didn't know how beloved this book was in the romance community until well after I had already read it. So I just didn't jive with the characters, and some of the writing was so cheesy in this one that I was like, I can't get down. I gave this book 2 stars. I did say I'm going to continue on with the series, and now that I'm more of a romance reader, in my head I'm thinking, should I go back and read this again? And maybe I'll think differently about it. I don't know. But I do plan on continuing the series. This one was just not very good in my personal opinion. I'm going to put this in romance. This could have went in the other video. I don't know. We could put this in multiple different categories, but I'm going to talk about The Wedding People, which for entertaining purposes was jam up. I was entertained. But there is something that happens in here that I cannot get down with, and I can't say what it is because it's a spoiler. That made me absolutely think differently about this book, and I actively hated it. This one was one of the most popular books, and more power to the people, but if you know, you know what happens in this book, and I could not get down with it. No, 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 and no, and no thank you. The Charlie Method by Elle Kennedy. So I love Elle Kennedy. I've read every single one of the books in the hockey world that she has. The Charlie Method was the last one. It was my first foray into a polyamorous relationship, and I don't think that the polyamory was the issue for me. It definitely wasn't. I've read more polyamory books since then and enjoyed my time, but this particular one, I hated the main character. I thought she was so immature and so just cringy that I could not get down. This was the first Elle Kennedy book that I feel like that I just didn't like. And so we're going to put that aside. I'm sorry, Elle. You have my heart, but not with this book. Behind the Net by Stephanie Archer. This is a very beloved series in the community. And I'm going to agree with you that I think the books in this series after this first book are excellent. I like them. But this first book is a train wreck. It's a disaster. I hated the characters. I thought what was going on was cheesy. The romance was not believable. And honestly, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to continue on with this series. But if it wasn't for people actively saying, like, the first book is no, it is not, you know, it's not indicative how the rest of the series is. I actually really ended up enjoying the rest of the series. And the series is still coming out. Next book is out in February. So looking forward to it. But actively just did not like this first book. Cocky Score. I think this is by Kenna King. There are certain authors whose writing style is just not for me. There are some writing differences that I don't like. This one to me was a little bit immature, and I just didn't jive with this particular book or series. And this was when I was going through kind of like reading all the hockey romances that I could get a hold of. The Bombshell Effect by Carla Sorensen. I have read a lot of Carla Sorensen after this. I have not like poo-pooed the author at all. She has a lot of backlists that I'm interested in reading. This particular one did not work for me. I thought this was an insta-love, which is not what I like. I didn't like our main female character. I didn't really care for the main male character, and so I just didn't like it, and I'm not going to continue on with this series. Play the Game by S.J. Silvis. I actually fell in love with S.J. Silvis in the year of 2025. There are some books of hers that I've given 5 stars. This is, again, I'm into my hockey universe. So this is a spin-off series. This is the first book of a spin-off series that she has done to another series that I really enjoyed, that you will see in my best books of the year. But this one was, I hated the characters. I thought it was very immaturely written, and I don't know what happened here, because I did actually end up liking the rest of the books in the series, but I did not jive with this first one. I didn't hate it. I gave it 3 stars, but it was very disappointing considering that I absolutely loved a lot of her other works. I put this one in the romance category. It really shouldn't. It could have gone multiple categories, and that's going to be the favorites by Lane Fargo. I've seen this book on plenty of people's favorites of the year, but again, this has a thing in it that if you know, you know, I cannot get down with. I cannot get down with what happens in this book. This is a very toxic book and an entertaining book, I will say. I was entertained for majority of the time reading this book, but then when the ending happened, no thank you. It ruined the whole book for me. No. Exit. No. Pucky and Gray. This is another one when I was trying to look for hockey series to read. This was actually one of the worst books I read in 2025. I just didn't like it. I thought the writing was immature. I couldn't get down with any of the characters, anything that was happening in the story. I should have DNF'd it. I didn't, but here we are. Our Secret Song is another TikTok sensation. I don't understand it. I thought the writing was very immature. I thought the characters were immature. This is a closed door romance, so if that's not your thing, you shouldn't read it. But I just couldn't get down with this book. I should have DNF'd it. I don't understand. Cash. This is a series that people love. And I'm not saying that this is a bad series. I'm saying that it's not for me. I normally don't jive with cowboy or small town romances. I'm trying to read more of them to try to see if it's something particular that I don't like about them and that I can figure out what that is before I read a book. But this particular one I read as a buddy read with my book club. And so I finished the book. I completed the book. I didn't like the book. And I think a lot of the reason why is because I listened to this on audio for a lot of the time and I did not jive with the narrators, so that probably had something to do with it. But I also just did not jive with this romance. I just did not feel a connection with these 2 characters, and I'm not going to continue on in the series. Cruel Prince by Ashley Jade. Listen, you will see on my best books of the year Ashley Jade books. I read this one. This is like a high school bully romance, and I realized really quickly that this is not my genre of book, like the high school thing, maybe, because it was very immature. I just didn't, this is not a book that I personally was entertained by. Plenty of people love this book. It's also a darling, but I just couldn't get down with it, and I did finish it, but won't be continuing on in the series. Corrupt by Miss Penelope Douglas. Now, I either like Penelope Douglas or I hate Penelope Douglas. I haven't read a book necessarily by her that I love, and Penelope Douglas is like the darling of romance, and people love her, and I'm trying to figure out what the deal is. I am reading a lot of her books to try to figure out what is happening. So this is their first book in like a dark romance series that's very popular. I will continue on with this series, but I think things are overhyped for me, because this was super hyped, and then when I read it I was like, okay, it was just fine, like nothing to write home about. However, people always talk about how the rest of the books in the series are so much better than the first book. So I'm gonna, continue on in the series to see if that's true. I may end up DNFing the series. I may not. We'll have to see. This is gonna ruffle some feathers, some romance readers' feathers, because this is probably the most hyped book in the romance community, and that is Say You Swear by Megan Brady. Number 1, I think it is super overhyped. If there's any book that is overhyped, it is this one. 100% overhyped. Interestingly, I had tried to read this before and DNF'd it fairly early on, within like 2 chapters, because I didn't like the writing style, because I couldn't figure out who was talking. Like the talking was not done well. Like you couldn't actively identify who this was talking, because there was so much conversation at one time, and I'm like, I don't know who's talking. So I said, this is not a book for me. Well, then my book club decided to buddy read it. So I was like, okay, I'll try again. I'm now, by the time that rolled around, I'm more of a romance reader. Maybe it was just something that happened and I read. So again, in the first few chapters, the same thing happened to me. I switched to audio, because the same thing happened to me, where I could not discern who was talking. There was too much talking back and forth and not enough like in between. It was just like quotation marks, and now there's quotation mark, and it was just too much talking. I couldn't discern who was talking. But there's a twist in this story that is probably why everybody tends to love this book. And as somebody who has read multiple genres, this twist was nothing to write home about. I actually thought that it drug down the book. I was enjoying the book until that happened. And then I was like, okay, this is what this is going to be. And I don't care anymore. I understand that people like this romance, and I liked it. I liked the romance. I didn't think there was anything wrong with the romance. I think that our male main character is a stand-up male main character. But again, this just did not work for me. My Dark Romeo was a recommendation that I got from TikTok, I think. It's one that comes up a lot, I think, for like dark enemies to lovers romance. Y'all, some of the things that happened in this book was absolutely ridiculous. I did not like our main character. I did not like our male main character or female main character. I didn't like them. And some of the things were just absolutely ridiculous. So I'm not continuing on with the series. I don't understand the hype about it, but here we are. Another series that I may get dinged on, and that's going to be The Pucking Wrong Number. This is a dark hockey romance, and I'm finding weird things about dark romances. I've read a lot by now, and some of them are just, now this seems crazy to say they're cheesy. How can a dark romance be cheesy? But certain ones are, and certain ones I think are poorly written, and I'm really sorry to say, but I think this particular one was poorly written, and I didn't like the characters. So come for me. I don't know. It's not like I'm not actively trying to get on you, but I didn't care for it. Okay. Another one that is series that is super overhyped. If you talk about sports romances, this one is bound to come up in every single video, TikTok, YouTube, wherever, Instagram, wherever you look, this is going to come up. And that is going to be Throttled by Lauren Asher. And I don't understand this. I've read the first 2 books in the series. This one definitely is just like, they're fine. They're fine. I feel like these were her first books that were written, and they are not well written at all. And the characters are not well written, and some of the things in here are very cheesy. And I'm like, why? That's embarrassing. Like, somebody of this age should not be doing this. So I'm going to continue on with the series because I keep hearing the last 2 books are like emotional, and I'm like into this emotional romance thing. So I will read the last 2 books, but I did read the first 2 books and just found them underwhelming. So I don't know if this was just overhyped for me or what, but here we are. The Jessa Wilder series. I read the entire series in 2025. This is another one that is super hyped. If you're looking for like sports romance, it's gonna come up. And if you are looking at like 3, the third book in the series is gonna come up, 3 people. I've read all of them. I've read, there are 3 main books and a little novella at the end. I've read them all. I think that this writing, again, is immature. I'm not saying I wouldn't read from the author again, but again, these characters, like romance authors, like these characters are not acting their age. They're not acting how they should be acting. You're writing adult characters to act like they're 15, 16, and I cannot get down with that, and that was my problem with the series. I just felt like the characters just did not act their age. I didn't care for any of the characters in these books, and so I did read, obviously I read them all because I'm a completionist and I shouldn't have done that, but I did. And mostly it was because everybody talked so much good about the third book that I was like, but I can't read them out of order, even though you could, because they are technically standalones, but they're interconnected standalones. So I was like, I have to read them in order. And so I read them in order, and I was just disappointed. Reflected in You by Sylvia Day. Like, this book series is one that came out a long time ago. It gets compared to 50 Shades of Grey. I think I pulled this out of a jar or something when I was trying to make content again for the channel. I may have posted that video, I may have not, I don't know. But Bare to You is the first book, and I thought it was fine. It was toxic, it was drama filled, but it was fine. Went on to the second book, and I'm like, oh my god. This book was, I hate you, no I love you, I hate you, no I love you, I hate you, no I love you again. It was just like, really? Y'all, I hope nobody is out there fantasizing about these really toxic relationships, because I'm not. That's the end of the books that disappointed me, that I didn't like. As far as DNF, I don't have that many, because with romance this year, I was a completionist. I did DNF In the Weeds by B.K. Borson, because I read the first book in the series and thought it was mediocre, and then I started to read the second book in the series. I didn't get that far, but I just didn't feel any connection between our 2 main characters, and I decided to just put it down. And then the only other book that I DNF'd is also a darling. And I may go back and try to read this again. But That is Unsteady by Peyton Curran. Listen, and this is a thing about it being overhyped. So I didn't read a significant amount of this book, but I read at least 20%, I think. And both of the main characters, the female main character, the male main character, got on my last nerve. And I could not connect to them. I didn't connect to their romance. I didn't connect to anything that was happening in the book. And it had nothing to do with the mental health representation, which I hear is wonderful in this book. It's just, I couldn't get down with it. And so I DNF'd it. But everybody loves this book. And maybe I should try again. But then again, there are lots of books on my worst or disappointing books of the year that everybody loves also, that I couldn't get down with. So I don't know. Should I try this again? Should I read it again? Tell me why. Okay. That's all. That's a lot. That's enough. Okay, that's enough bad books of 2025. All right, tell me what some of your terrible books were of 2025. Have you read any of these romances? Did you like them? Did you love them? Tell me all about it in the comments below, and I will catch you guys in the next one.